Thank you, Mr. President. This nation is proud of you. President Erdogan addressed people in Kısıklı.
You've just been listening to Turkey's President Erdogan addressing supporters there in Istanbul, calling for solidarity. He said even though the people who carried out the coup bombed the Turkish parliament, 4 political parties came together, released a unified statement, and we need that unity, we need that solidarity, he said. He said all institutions in Turkey are now back to work, and he called on the US government. He addressed President Obama to arrest a cleric in Pennsylvania who he says is behind the coup attempt. Now, CNN's Ian Lee joins me now live from Istanbul. Ian, that address directly to President Obama, quite fascinating. What did you make of it?
Well, that's right. And when you listen to not only President Erdogan, but you go down on the street and talk to his supporters, that is public enemy #1 for them. Fethullah Gulen, he is a religious leader, very influential in the judiciary and the police, has a lot of followers. And that's where you have this parallel state that we're hearing President Erdogan talk about, saying that they are the ones that brought about this coup. And that's where you also saw they had 2,700 members of the judiciary that were dealt with, moved aside. You had 2,800 members of the military that were arrested, really going after who they say are Gulen supporters, trying to crack down on that. And you are seeing quite a broad roundup. But when it comes to the man himself, we've heard from Secretary of State John Kerry say, you give us the formal request for an extradition, show us the evidence. What evidence do you have? If it's credible evidence, then we'll move forward with this. But the U.S. has been a bit cautious when it comes to this sort of rhetoric, saying, you know, we need the proof. We want to have these formal requests. There is a process for this. So when you do hear President Erdogan talking about Fethullah Gulen, really saying that he is the cause for these ails and really for a lot of Turkey's ails, that's what he says, that they want him back, but there is a process, Linda.
And you mentioned the 2,800 arrested. The president also said, obviously, generals and colonels are among those arrested. He said, let us not fall prey to their plot. And he called on people to come out for demonstrations. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, really interesting about the military when you look at this, as the military historically has been the defender of the Constitution, a defender against secular Turkey and the security. They see that as their role in the state. But with this coup, you really have seen the military split. The chief of staff was, in all intents and purposes, kidnapped and held hostage during this. So you have seen a real divide in the military. But tonight, looking on Taksim Square, you might be able to hear it. We are seeing more and more people going to the square, and this is what President Erdogan wanted. He wants a show of force. He wants to send a message not just to the leaders of the coup, but people who may be sympathetic towards him, that this is a democratic country and that change will be brought about democratically. And that's what we are seeing with the opposition too. Opposition and politics here in Turkey, quite divisive, quite heated, and at times can be deadly. But we did see this unity with all these political parties coming together and saying, no, Turkey is a democratic country, talking to people in the square just a little while ago. That was the one thing that they pointed out too. They didn't want a coup to set them back 50 years. They're saying that Turkey needs to move forward as a democratic country, and they're coming out in the streets tonight to voice that sentiment.
And Ian, we're just looking at some pictures in Ankara right now. What looks to be thousands of supporters who've come out onto the streets in support of President Erdogan and the government. In terms of his popularity, how do you think this failed coup will affect him?
Well, a lot of people say that this will actually empower him, that the exact opposite of what those leaders of the coup wanted to achieve, which is to take him down. It's going to have the opposite effect now that he survived, that he'll be more emboldened and grow more powerful. And you are seeing the people out there, not just here in Istanbul, but in Ankara, going to the streets. You know, the one thing, though, too, we need to point out is you aren't seeing the people who supported the coup or people who maybe were, you know, maybe on the sidelines. It's just kind of a charged atmosphere right now, and all those people down there, all the people in the streets are the ones that support the government right now. But people who have been in the periphery, they're a bit scared. They don't know what is going to happen when you have these large protests. They are nervous about what's going to take place here in Turkey. But as we heard from the Prime Minister today, he says the coup is over and that order has been restored, Linda.
Yeah, but no doubt still many people nervous, given we saw the deaths last night of at least 160 people in that failed coup attempt. Just stand by for us, Ian. I want to bring in Chris Frates, who's our correspondent in DC, just for response, the US reaction to President Erdogan calling on the US President Obama, to arrest or extradite this cleric in Pennsylvania. Chris.
Hey, Linda. So we did hear from the White House today. President Obama met with both his national security team and his foreign policy advisors this morning. Got an update on the ground there, and the White House put out a statement. We didn't hear from President Obama. He didn't make a statement in person. He put out a written statement essentially saying that they stand behind the President Erdogan, that they reiterated their support for Turkey and also called for Turkey to react under the rule of law. We also heard the same from Secretary Kerry earlier today in Luxembourg. He made that same case that they want to see a judicious response to this coup. And when you brought up the issue of this Turkish dissident who's living in Pennsylvania and whether or not he'll be extradited, Secretary Kerry did make the case that they're willing to hear from Turkey if they have any credible evidence that they want to send to the United States that somehow this cleric was involved with this coup. Then they'll certainly look at that and examine it like they always do. But Secretary Kerry also saying they've got no requests from the Turkish government for extradition, Linda.
Okay, and Chris, obviously the airbase in Turkey still shut down at this point in time, as far as you know?
That's right. And in fact, we now know that there are 5 military installations in Turkey, including the one in southern Turkey, which is used by the United States to launch airstrikes on ISIS. It's a key base. That is still a no-fly zone. The Turkish officials have shut down the airspace around that U.S. airbase. We've not able to take flights into Syria to bomb ISIS, which is where the U.S. has been operating from. They have looked at other bases in the region to do that kind of work, and the Turkish government so far hasn't been able to tell the United States how long that airspace will be shut down for. And so we have both the highest level of alert at 5 different military installations in Turkey, and we still have a freeze essentially on flights. And also worth pointing out here that American authorities have banned and prohibited any U.S. or private commercial flights into or out of Turkey, and also any flights that start in Turkey will be unable to come into the United States. So civil authorities here in the United States, Linda, also a ban on flights into or out of Turkey right now.
Right, so the highest threat level issued. Are any U.S. citizens in danger right now?
Well, we don't know whether they are in danger, although it looks like all of the American personnel from the State Department has been accounted for. The Defense Department was still counting, but they said it looks like everybody there is safe as well. But certainly, you know, this is not over. There's still some unanswered questions, so we will continue to monitor that. But at this point, we don't have any reports of that, Linda.
Okay, Chris Frates for us live in our Washington bureau. Great to have you with us. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And just to recap, we just heard from the Turkish President Erdogan, calling on the US President Barack Obama to arrest or extradite a cleric who's based in Pennsylvania, who he says is responsible for the failed coup attempt, which last night saw 161 people killed in Turkey. I'm Lynda Kinkade. We're going to now go to continuing coverage of the developments out of Turkey. Stay with us.